This is the TSG Multimedia Podcast for May of 2024. We're sponsored this month by Podomatic and the TSG Train Crew on Patreon. Thank you very much. Welcome to the longest-running train-related podcast in world history, now running in our 15th continuous year. I'm John, your host, and we have a lot to talk about this month. Now, before we get to that, I want to wish my friend Goofy Gary a very happy birthday. Gary turns 250 today, so happy birthday, Gary! April was a very busy month, including the SBHRS Spring Open House, a test op session, the West Side Reunion, the THRA's first annual banquet, and the Sierra Seminar, the PCR Convention, and a lot more. So let's get straight to it. This is April 6th, Saturday, and we are at the SBHRS, and the open house starts today, the Spring Open House. I talk about this event every time it comes up because it's one of the best railroad-related events in the South Bay, maybe in the entire Bay Area, because everything here is open today, and I'm going to show you some of that stuff. So I'm here in the SBHRS's private business car with Lloyd Darknell, who's been really one of the instrumental people in getting this thing restored to how it is now, with some exceptions that we've talked about off camera. But Lloyd, tell people a little bit about this car so that they know what they're looking for when they come down. Because this is one of the things that's open at every open house.
And we open it at every open house. It was manufactured by the Pullman Coach Works in Chicago, Illinois in 1912, and at that time it was actually built as a cafe car and used on the Oregon Short Line. They rebuilt it in 1922 as a business car because they found they didn't need the cafe car. And then shortly thereafter it was sold off to Oregon-Washington Terminal Railroad, and they continued to use it as a business car, which it would travel around their territory and actually be used for sales, trying to find customers for their railroad. And at some point, Oregon-Washington Terminal Railroad became part of UP, and UP had the car for many, many years until around 1966, which they surplused it out to Stockton Terminal Railroad in Stockton, California, and they used it for an office building for quite a few years until they decided they didn't need it there anymore, and they donated it to the Golden Gate Railroad Museum. And when Hunters Point got closed down, they had to get rid of it, so they moved it off to private ownership. And then the private owner had no place to store it at, so he ended up donating it to us. And we brought it down here to our facility and parked it on the siding, and it was in very bad shape. So the last 12 years, we've been refurbishing it and rebuilding it, and it's really something you should come and see because it's in fairly good shape. We're probably over 90% done with our refurbishment. We've got the kitchen and secretary's bathroom and the icebox still to finish, and then we should be all done with it. But it's really something you might want to come by and see on our open house.
It's not often that people get to come into a piece of equipment, railroad equipment, that's this old, number one. And number two, that's this well restored or refurbished. One of the really cool things that I find every time I come in here, and I notice them and look at them every time, is the original stained glass, right?
Stained glass.
That's really cool.
We remanufactured it because we only had one sample, and they rebuilt all the stained glass from that sample to match it as closely as they could.
So this is one of the things you can see when you come to the SBHRS open house, whether it's the spring open house or the fall open house. The next one coming up is going to be the fall open house. That'll be in November. So be sure not to miss it.
If you really can't make those two, you can set up an appointment to see the car, and we can usually set up a time to open it up so you can actually walk through it, and we can explain what you need to know about it.
That's a great point. And the best way probably to reach us is to go to the website, sbhrs.org, and find the contact information there.
Hi, I'm Jack, South Bay Historic Railroad Society, and we're sitting in our great library here. We have over 3,000 titles for checkout, along with some DVDs. And anybody who's a member of South Bay Railroad Society can check out the books for a 2-week period. And we also have a special membership for the younger members under 10. The parent joins as a library member, very inexpensive dues. And then they can check out the books, take home to read to their children, and then bring them back and check out another one. And we have several people that do that.
I'm here now with my friend John Dietrich, who's also a member, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what I refer to as the company store. It's called a bunch of different things, but what would you say about the company store if you had 30 seconds to tell the world about it?
It's a fun place to purchase things that you really need or don't need. There are cars and buildings here that you can practice your modeling skills on. Some good deals for your kids. It's just a great place to be and to pick up some railroad model stuff.
Something else that I like about it is that it's not just models, but we also have books, signs, all kinds of memorabilia, that kind of thing.
And there's even some complete kits that you can build. In fact, some of them are very old and collectible. You just have to know what you're looking for.
And this is how we help raise funds to keep the preservation and restoration efforts going here.
Yes, because keeping the wood building in good shape is expensive and requires a lot of effort on our part. So all of the funds go directly to our work keeping this place going.
See, that's my next goal that I'm going to work on, is to make the hoppers look like they've got the kind of rust streaks coming up. I haven't figured that part out yet.
Something else that's always open at the open houses is the layout room. And we have 2 large layouts here. One is HO scale, one is N scale. And members bring their best trains to run at the open house events. So that makes it worth coming. Even if you're just into trains, HO scale layout right behind me. And then there's an N scale layout down that way. Very cool stuff. And especially if you have kids, very much worth coming to. Something else that we have open every time at these events is the tower. This is the Santa Clara Interlocking Tower that we have this open every time. It's really cool inside. It's one of the last interlocking towers even still in existence anymore. So if you come to the open house, that alone is worth being here for. All right, so that's it from the SBHRS today. It looks like they had a great turnout, and everybody there had fun. Met up with some friends, did some foaming, looked at some of the trains going by. Catch you next time. Hi, we're doing something train related today. Our friend Robert Bowditch has basically it's an operations-based layout, and he's going to be open for something out here called ProRail. So we're doing a test operating session to help him work out the kinks for that. So may come back later. All right, so we're working on this test op session, and I found something on this layout that I think is really cool that I want to show you. So this is a manual interlocking, and you have to really pay attention to what you're doing here, but it's actually very well labeled. So for example, the train that we were running through had to go on this track right here where you see the 4 and the 8. So you have to throw 4 and 8 on here, and then the signal for it when you're going to the left is this one, number 9. That would change the signal. And if you're going to the right, it would be the number 3 over here. And when everything's thrown correctly, it's an interlocking, so you actually physically can't throw the switches back. So that was really cool.
Something. Well, a lot of what they're growing up there is the stuff that's growing down here. So.
Okay, you're clear.
Okay. Danny, were problems reproducing, or have been slowly going and replacing?
I noticed some things don't always go all the way.
Richard Bryan's from the MP4s.
Okay.
And those end up being much nicer for doing modification, whereas like this one is one.
Are you coming down the hill?
Cable throw.
Make sure you watch the timetable, man, because we're banking on things on the timetable. You do stop at Campbell, right? Oh, I was going to say, what train are you integrated into? Do you have a number?
Running our second job here now, and we've come to this interlocking. So I thought I'd show you how it works. Once again, we're coming on the main line, so it's number 4 and number 8. So I'm supposed to throw number 4 here and number 8 over here, and then the light that I'm trying to turn on is actually number 3, which is listed over here. So I look up here, throw number 3, and now we can go through. And once she goes through, then I'm going to reset the levers back to how they were, all in the up position. So this is Robert. He's the guy that built the layout that we're doing the test ops on. And Robert, first of all, thanks for having us over to do this.
No problem. This was great.
I was commenting earlier on the podcast about this little interlocking, and I thought it would be interesting for everyone watching to learn what your thought process, like why did you do this, and what is it, and that kind of thing. So what would you tell people if you had a minute or two to tell them what you did here?
So this location on my layout is the WP crossing. So on the real location in San Jose, there was a place where the Southern Pacific tracks crossed the Western Pacific tracks. The Western Pacific came after. And that meant that the WP had to build a tower to be able to control the trains going through here. This isn't necessarily something that's operating on the layout, but I did want to slow people down and make them think about what they were doing, because otherwise they would just sort of run train, block the crossing, and in real life that would have pissed off the Western Pacific. in the tower, they had a thing called an interlocking machine. That is a machine, a physical device that's used to control the signals in ways that is interlocked, that you can't have trains collide. This is a model of one. This is actually working, where you can actually throw the physical levers that would have controlled the signals, the switches, and the derails that were actually on the actual WP interchange. And so if you actually want to come across this crossing, somebody can actually roll up to these signals, and what they would be able to do is actually throw all the different devices that they would have to do to be able to get across the crossing. So, for example, a train going from San Jose towards Campbell here would need to do two things. They would need to throw the derails that were stopping trains from rolling across the crossing. So you could do that by throwing the two levers. And then they would have to throw the switch that would actually control the signal here, which would be with this lever. And once they've done that, the signal goes to green, the derails are no longer blocking the rail, and so the train can roll through, and the train can roll through. And then they can put these back. And in this way, the crew that's operating here gets slowed down for a little while longer. They get to think about what a prototype job is like, and they get to have the fun of playing around with a mechanical device that will not let them throw the levers that would be letting an opposing train come through.
I think the tactile act of throwing the levers is really satisfying. Because, a lot of times you have just a DCC controller and you hit accessory to throw a turnout or whatever. There's nothing, to do really except pushing buttons. So this is really cool. And it's an interesting concept because the layout, as you can see, is not that big. It's half of a 2-car garage, maybe a little more than half. And having things to slow people down like this and really make to me, it makes it more enjoyable because you're not just blowing through at track speed or whatever. So good idea.
There's also the historic side that this device is actually the same as what was actually in that tower. Mm-hmm. And we know from historic records that the WP installed an 18-lever interlocking machine here. We know how many signals there were. We know how many derails there are. We know how many. We have photos showing the tracks so we can see how they were configured. But the existence of this machine helps tell the story of how the railroad really operated. Right. And the idea of having to have somebody in that tower for 12 hours a day to be able to throw these switches when a train came through.
I just thought of something. Well, you said there's an extra position on the crew that's coming up for the office.
It's not that it's an extra person. Oh, actually, yes.
Make him be the tower guy. It would be real fun for him to just throw levers the whole time.
And that would be a reasonable thing because then they could actually act through... they could act it through the role of being the tower person, of hearing the whistle of a train coming and knowing, there's a passenger train coming, I can see it on my timetable, so I should throw the signals in this way, as well as seeing a switching crew come through and wait for them to say, we're just rolling through, or we're not going to go all that way, but have the actual interactions that the real crews might have had with the WP towermen up until the point when they pulled it out.
Yeah, just an idea. Anyway, so that's it from the... What do you call this layout?
This is the Vasona branch.
Just the Vasona branch?
The Southern Pacific Vasona branch. That name matches the modern name for the track, but in the 1930s era, this would have been the San Jose Santa Cruz branch.
Okay. That's it from the San Jose Santa Cruz branch, or Vasona branch. And it was actually a good test stop. I have some comments about that. Just FYI, if you're doing a test operating session, you have to bring people over that are going to be honest with you. So I'm going to really chew them out now about all the stuff that didn't work. And that's what I want.
I'm operated now.
On April 17th, we went live with last month's episode of Talking Trains. For this episode, I asked Mike Osborne to come on as the guest co-host. After Mike shared some information about how train crews used to retrieve their train orders from the stations, we talked with Ray Arnott. You probably know Ray as the host of the Around the Layout podcast, but he's also an avid rail photographer. He shared dozens of great photos and some interesting stories about his adventures. This is definitely worth checking out on the replay if you missed us live. We did something kind of train related today. I'm up here at Niles Canyon while I'm actually in Sunol right now. And we're out here kind of scouting the line, or I'm showing Jack Burgess and his wife Jackie around Niles Canyon because we have something coming up that we're going to be coming up here to do some what I'll call foaming. And so they wanted to know the places that I usually go and shoot from, because they know that I've spent a lot of time up here doing that. And as we pulled in here to Sunol, which is one of my spots, we saw that the M200 rail bus is here. This is not something that should be here this time of day on a Tuesday morning. So it's kind of strange that it's here. And in case you don't know, the rail bus is from the California Western, what's referred to commonly as the skunk train. And it's been in the PLA collection for quite some time. And sometimes they'll run special charters and special events on it. So I'm assuming that's what's going to be going on here today sometime. It's just something that I didn't know about, so I'm not part of whatever charter it is. But there it is at the Sunol Depot. Something you don't see every day. Hi, so we're doing something that's train or railroad related this weekend. We're at the West Side Reunion. That's today. And then tomorrow is the Sierra Seminar. And I already have seen a whole bunch of people we know and meeting new people as usual. That's what this is all about. It's a lot of fun. It's a great weekend. And if you're ever in this area or can be in this area around this time of year, it's a good thing to try to look into because these are both two really good events. One of the really cool things about this event is that people come and they bring stuff to share with the people that they haven't seen, in some cases, since last year. And Joe Piazza here is a guy that I met probably about 3 years ago at this event. Knew about him for a long time before that because I think we were Facebook friends or something. But he does these really detailed trucks and he 3D prints this stuff. So I'm going to have him tell you about that. So,
take it away.
Yeah, take it away.
Okay, so this has been an obsession of mine since I discovered the West Side maybe 40 years ago. Seeing photos in the books, I always wondered what these were. Over years, I finally figured out this was a Peterbilt. What year was it? It's a 43. And then I set about just trying to research it, figuring out how to model it correctly. And so this is actually as accurate as I can get it. It's based on, number one, the actual spec sheets from Peterbilt, actual engineering drawings, and then reconciling that to actual trucks out in the field, like restored trucks. And then I've had to learn the whole 3D process, obviously, which has been an evolution. And also technology has advanced over time to create these amazing prints that you can't even see the layers.
Joe was kind enough to bring a loop for people that can't see like me, and I've put the loop up to some of these models, and the detail on these things is just mind-blowing. Like how high fidelity it is, you can tell.
It's all drawn to scale.
Right?
Even the tread plate is drawn to scale.
Right.
And you can see it.
Right, so when you print it in a miniature, you need this to see it. Even people with good eyes probably need this in some cases, but it's really, really good. If people are interested in finding out more about this, or maybe they want to order something for you, how can they get a hold of you?
Send me an email at camp8models@comcast.net, and I'll send you an information sheet. And feel free to hit me with any kind of questions you have about the prototype or the process. Even I'm happy to share. I'd like more people to get involved in producing. I mean, the technology's there, right? If you want to get into it, let's make it happen.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Okay. Thanks for stopping by.
So it's been an afternoon of some really interesting clinics. In the room off to my right over here, lots of very interesting and good modeling that takes place. People come here, there was a contest, and it's already been judged and awards handed out. It's just a really cool event. If you're ever in the area or can be in the area, it's worth coming to. Okay, so this is a little bit later, and as you can see, the room that we were in for the presentations is now set up for a banquet. This is something that's new this year. I don't know that they've ever done a banquet for this event, But the banquet is being put on by the THRA, or the Tuolumne Historical Railroad Association. We've had them on the channel here a number of times. I remember when they first formed the group, I had like 4 or 5 of the board members, the founding board members on. So I've changed into my THRA shirt as a member. And we're actually going to record the presentation of a guy named Scott McGee, who's going to talk about the Madera Sugar Pine Logging Company or Lumber Company. And he's going to be talking about 2 of the Shea locomotives from the west side that are now part of the Yosemite Mountain Sugar Pine Railroad, which is a tourist railroad out here in the Sierras. And he's actually the person who runs it. So should be a really interesting presentation, and I believe we're going to be putting it out on the channel here sometime in the future. So you'll be on the lookout for that. I'm just telling you all this stuff because this is, the event's getting bigger and better all the time. And there's so much very interesting history, even if you're not interested in West Side Lumber or, Sierra Railroad or anything like that. It's still interesting, and the modeling and the stories of all this stuff, it can be very inspirational if you're doing your own modeling. So that's what this is all about. And of course, it's preserving history, which is one of our 3 cornerstones here on the channel. So that's it for now. I'll probably be back with an update later. The banquet is finally over, and I have 2 of the organizers of this event and also of the Sierra Seminar, which is happening tomorrow. You might remember Glenn on the far end here, because he's appeared on the Live Talking Train show a few times promoting for the Sierra Seminar. And this is John, who had some technical issues, so he wasn't able to join us for that. But what were your guys' impressions of how the first ever official THRA banquet went?
I thought it went great. It was a new thing for us. We had to sort of reinvent several wheels, and our speaker was great. It was kind of technical, but that's exactly what the audience wanted. It was about the 2 West Side Shays down at the Yosemite Mountain Sugar Pine Railroad, and the audience appeared to really love the presentation.
The audience was West Side Lumber Company people, in essence. They knew everything, and they had a tendency to say a few things occasionally, but overall it was fantastic. It was great. Caterer did a great job. So we're extremely happy with everything.
I want to say 2 things. One, and this is really cool, something that happened during the presentation was people in the audience had information that he didn't know.
Yeah.
So he got more information that he wanted, which is really cool. So that's one thing. And the other thing was, this was a great event. Yes. And I'm really looking forward to more THRA banquets and events in the future. So thank you very much for doing all the work.
We're looking.
Thank you, John.
Looking at maybe doing something this year because the 125th anniversary of the railroad getting to Sonora.
Oh, really?
And so the key is, will the number 3 ever get running again? So
right.
That's something that we're thinking about trying to figure out. So we might have something else later this year.
Talking about it's a 460, right?
Yes.
I want to make sure I get that right. The 460 down at Railtown.
The famous movie.
The movie queen, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and of course, if that happens, I'll be happy to have you guys on and talk about
Oh, yeah,
it, promote
definitely.
it, and get people. So, that's it from the banquet. Signing off for today. Hi, it's April 21st, about 7:45. We're back at the venue. Today is the Sierra Seminar. Just want to say we had a great time at the West Side reunion yesterday, and the banquet was really cool. I think it was the first one that's ever been put on by the THRA, and the presentation by Scott McGee was great. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the clinics are today, because some of them are being put on by people from the channel here, and I don't know if I'll get them on camera or not, but should be a good event either way. And one of the great things about the Sierra Seminar is that they always have,
In 1919, when it lost its wooden cab, it was pulling the passenger.
Thanks for the vision, those guys down there. So there's another.
All of the material, all of the equipment.
So Sierra Seminar is wrapped up a little bit early. there was one presentation that wasn't able to be done, so we're done about an hour early. But otherwise, overall, it was a lot of really, as usual, excellent presentations, great, rare photos and film and all kinds of great stuff going on here. Once again, if you ever have a chance to get out here, even if you don't like the Sierra Railroad, it's worth it, because look at what a beautiful place this is too. So now on to that dreadful drive home, and we'll catch up with you later this week when we're at the PCR convention. Okay, so we're here at a place called Sonesta. This is a hotel where the PCR convention is being held. The PCR is the Pacific Coast region of the NMRA, and we've volunteered to produce the virtual side because we believe strongly in hybrid events and being able to bring events to people who can't be here, because why should they be left out? So this is the room that we're going to be set up in for the next 2 or 3 days here, and maybe later on I'll show you the setup. We have kind of a more complex setup than you really need for this kind of thing, but kind of like, if you have the technology, use it, and if you don't, then do something that you can handle. The point is, there's no reason that we can't bring events like this to people who can't be here, because they still want to be involved and included. So more updates to come, I'm sure. Okay, so it's a little while later. We got everything set up and tested, and we're good to go for tomorrow. I'm going to have to wake up kind of early and get down here and set up some of what we set up today, but most of it's done. And the trick here is I take the expensive stuff out of the room just for safety's sake and bring it down tomorrow. It's minimal setup on this day of the event, just because everything that is somewhat complicated is already done. So I may be on later. We'll see. I haven't decided yet. There's a little reception that's happening down here in, I don't know if it's in a restaurant or a bar or whatever, that we'll go to. Usually that kind of thing is too loud to do these little reports from, but we'll see what happens. I am back. This is the next day, and I'm here in the virtual room. If you look back there, you can see our stuff is set up behind the person who just walked in. And this is the room. Basically what we have is 3 clinic rooms, and one of those clinic rooms is designated as the virtual room. That's the one that we're standing in now. So everything that happens in this room gets streamed out to a live audience on Zoom. It's still a private audience because everyone on Zoom has registered for the convention, but that's kind of how this is set up. So I'll be back more later with some updates.
It's worth taking a little time to make a little list of stations and functions and what everybody does and who needs to call them and who they need to call to maintain that illusion. And particularly those of us with impaired hearing.
Well, you never know who you're going to run into.
Yeah, as he was saying, you never know who you're going to run into. It's my guest co-host from TSG Talking Trains last month, Mike Osborne. What did you think you were going to run into?
Who knows? I just always run into the character. I ran into Seth a few minutes ago at the nice clinic he just said.
Yeah.
And a nice day here in San Jose. Everybody should be here or you're missing out.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are on our virtual session.
Okay, they're here then in spirit.
It's all good.
All right, sounds good.
So we've completed, I think, 2 clinics now. We're about to start the 3rd one. Things are going pretty well. Everybody here seems to be having a really good time, and also really importantly is that the online attendees are also having a really good time. It's as much like being at a convention as we can make it be. And there's something like 80 people on there. So it's quite a lively little group online. We'll be back for more updates later.
If we're trying to
is the other microphone. And once they're grouped, then I can select them and the back wall and hit the alignment key, and they will align to the center. Group, Control G, group them. Those holes are now in the sidewall.
These are really long days. I know we have this big long break in the middle of the day, but you still have to be on the whole time. And, we started at 7. We won't be done till well after 10 tonight. So anyway, that's it for now. I'll catch up with you when I come back with another update.
There's people on the internet that'll tell you that, this work gaming paint, it's terrible. You can't use it in Unscale. You can't even use it in HO. It's really for large scale.
It doesn't get installed till the very end. Okay, we're getting close to actually putting something on the layout.
Okay, so this is our wrap up for day 1. I'm just out in the hallway here. The room that we're working in is down there. And boy, that was a good first day. We had a couple glitches with the audio. Still not sure what happened there. It's not my equipment, so I'm not really that familiar with it. But I do want to say that one of the cool things about volunteering for these events, doing this audio and video stuff, is that we get to work with really nice people. And we're working with a guy named Rick Anderson for this, who is a close associate of our other friend Hilding that has done the SIG meets with us in the past. And we're just having a great time. It's a lot of fun, actually. But anyway, I'm tired and I'm going to bed. So that's it for today. And I'm sure we'll be back with some more updates tomorrow for day 2. Okay, day 2 proper of the convention. We have our room set up. It's just behind this wall here. And we're going to be starting here very soon. I'm really excited. We have something like 85 or 87 some odd people signed up for this virtual. And as far as I know, this is the biggest virtual or hybrid or whatever convention that we've done since 2021, when we did the Rails by the Bay National Convention as a virtual convention. That one had like 600 people. So 100 is pretty good, and we're really close to 100. And surprisingly, last night, 2 of the clinics in the evening session were jam-packed full of people. And probably the most popular one, if you want to call it that, or at least the most well-attended one last night, was Dave Falkenberg did a thing about weathering. And I've never seen that many people stuffed into a small room like this. So looking forward to some of that today, too. So anyway, I'll maybe back later with more updates. So this is the vendor room, if you want to call it that. Just a bunch of exhibits and people selling stuff. And then down over here to my right is another exhibit. This is an exhibit for Loco-Fi. You've seen that here on the channel. I did a Loco-Fi module installation at some point. Actually, I've done 2 of them into modern diesel engines. What's interesting about this is it's controlled over Wi-Fi. You can get information here. And I'm going to go over to the contest room and show you that next. All right, so this is the contest room. And actually a lot of people find this to be the most interesting thing about a convention. But I'm not going to go around and show you all the models, because if you want to go see all the models, you have to sign up for the convention. I will show you this one because it's been on our channel before. This was entered by our friend Robin. You can see a video about this one searching for, let's see, I think we called that, do you remember Robin? Just search for his name, Robin Gilstrom. Yeah. I'll put it on the screen when you're looking at this. If you search for that, you'll find it. Also, you can find it in the links that are in this video's description. Also, I thought I'd show you these, because these were brought by our friend Paul Theis. I believe these are 7.5-inch gauge flat cars, because he does that. Pretty cool. This is not something you see at events like this very often.
How's it going?
Hey, this is our buddy James from Silicon Valley Lines. He used to be the Portola prospector, but now he's the Bill Pettis trucker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or the Boulder Creek logger.
Yep,
That's it.
I've gone from logging to truck driving.
Yeah,
it's a little bit too crazy.
You having fun at the convention?
Yeah, so far watched a lot of good clinics, and then I've been helping out with the make and take. I keep calling it a take and bake, but
take and bake.
Yeah, the make and take with Mike Dunstan for seems to have a lot of people really interested in it. It's got the family that's running around here working on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people running around here and a lot of really good clinics. So
yeah,
cool.
I've heard, no, there hasn't been a bad clinic yet.
Right, and you're going to Silicon Valley Lines right now to go open up for the open house, right?
Yep.
Cool.
We'll be open until 5, and then after that we have op session for the club members. So I'm not going to be back here tonight, but yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
just happened to land on this day.
Maybe we'll see you tomorrow then.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll be back here tomorrow for sure.
All right, and we'll be back later with more updates from the convention. Okay, so remember I was telling you about these big cars here, and I said that I know the guy that brought them? Here's that guy. You've seen him on the channel before. Paul Theis did the video that we made about the Central Coast
Railroad Festival.
Yeah, that thing. And Paul, why don't you tell people about this? Because I think it's kind of interesting. I've never seen a model this size at one of these contests before.
Well, the key word is model. So these are models based on a Denver and Rio Grande Western narrow gauge 6000 series flat car. And I wanted to build them as ride-on cars. So one is designed as a lumber load that goes on it that has a padded seat, and the other has 2 crates with boat seats, and I ride on them. So they're built exact scale replicas of the DNR-GW cars. I started with a plank of poplar wood, ran it through my wood shop and made all the components and built them out of wood and put real working truss rods on them, because these will each have about 500 pounds of person on them as we run around the railroad down at the Bitter Creek Western in Oro Grande. So they're built as contest models because they are built as exact scale replicas, including a full brake gear, and the planks are all individual planks, every piece. In order to meet the standard for a ride-on car, they have to have eye bolts in the end that you use for safety chains, because having a coupler come apart on the top of a hill would be really uncomfortable for the people riding on the car.
Especially when it starts rolling backwards down the hill.
Yeah, that would be horrible. So I love scratch building. So I built these cars, and I felt that they would be good enough to be entered in the contest. So they have to meet the same criteria as every other contest model, whether it be Z scale or something crazy like 1 to 6 scale, which these are 1 to 6. They go on a 7.5-inch gauge track. They weigh about 125 pounds each. They're lettered for my private railroad, the DNP Railroad, which is the Dorothy and Paul. They were just a lot of fun to build. I love woodworking and I love trains. Darn, I got to mix the two things together.
When I hired out, they were still doing this in 1979. Dave, was it 83?
84.
84. Sort of when they got rid of cabooses, they got rid of train orders.
All right, so it's a bit later, and just finished the first of our evening block of clinics. In the virtual room, we had Mike Osborne talking about prototypical railroad operations, so that people who want to model such can learn something from his real life experience. It was pretty cool. Anyway, I'll be back when I have another update for you. I'm just having a lot of fun here at the convention, even though I'm working the whole time. So this is the view out the window, the place that we're staying for this convention, and it's another early morning. This is the final day. I think we're both pretty burned out.
As a train comes into the block, you're going to notice the signal goes to flashing yellow, then to yellow, then to red.
Hi, this is you never know who you might run into. Kind of. I knew Dave was going to be here. You might remember Dave. He was at the Fur Creek and Western last summer. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you, John.
And I learned something today that I don't think I was completely aware of, that this is your first time at a convention.
It is.
At a
physical convention. Yeah.
But you've been on the virtual ones, so I remember.
A couple of times now, yeah.
So how would you compare the two, between being at a virtual one and coming to an in-person one?
Well, both are awesome. I mean, whether it's virtual or here, but the virtual convention makes sense certainly when I don't have either the time or the finances to travel down here and for hotel and all that. But there's just something about being here in person that just makes it really nice. I mean, you get to meet all the people that you've kind of met virtually, but now you're meeting them in person. But it's kind of the best of both worlds. I can do one or the other.
Sure. So if you were available and able to come to an in-person convention, money was no issue. But we were also putting on a virtual convention. Would you stay home and go to the virtual convention, or would you come to the in-person convention?
Well, if time and money were not the issue, yeah, I'd come in person because just like this, getting able to meet friends and make new friends, that's important. Plus the networking. You get to know these people and, there's just something about being in person.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. So would you say that your experience at the virtual convention made you more likely to come to this?
Well, I think having gone to a couple of the virtual conventions first, it made me feel certainly more comfortable in coming to this one. And then the virtual, one of the nice things about it is just like here, I can pick and choose which one I wanted to go to for the virtual convention, just like I can here. So I like both of them.
Sure.
It's just coming in person when it's an opportunity makes sense.
Yeah, I've always said that, at least for me, that coming to the in-person is much more preferable than, hanging out on a computer. But we volunteer a lot of hours here with our equipment in order to help people feel included. You know what I mean? So,
well, and I think that's one of the things that I was telling Sydney earlier is that she does a really good job of making people feel included, welcome, engaged in the virtuals, questions and those kind of things there. So the virtuals are a really nice option. It's just sometimes you want to be here in person.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, one softball question and then we'll go, because I don't want to have the whole podcast be our little talk here. But what's your favorite part? This is your first one. Your first one that you've been to in person. What's your favorite part of what you've experienced here over the last couple of days?
Absolutely the operating sessions.
I think you were going to say absolutely nothing.
Yeah, no. Operating sessions. You can't do that necessarily virtually. And getting to be there for the operating sessions has just been fabulous.
Excellent.
Hosts have been excellent. That's been certainly one of the high points of the convention.
Excellent. Thank you, sir, for talking to us and sharing your thoughts on the podcast.
Yeah.
Now you're YouTube famous. It's going to be very difficult for Dave now to go to the mall without all the girls coming out wanting to take selfies. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take a selfie right now.
See, now you got.
See this? I got my other phone here. Turn it around. Here's the selfie.
There we go.
More updates later.
It was the 16-foot shorty that was used at Camp 45 as the Camp Switcher caboose.
I had my first job, and next door to the place I worked, it was a store that sold trains. And I went in there and looked around, and I bought a Aurora micro train and set it up on the dining room table to make sure it worked. We never got it. That was my start of my own. For many years, I modeled in N scale when I was.
Hi, this is an update. Left the convention venue for a little while. It's lunchtime anyway, and I had to get lunch anyway. So I found my friend James from Silicon Valley Lines, who's over here. And we came up here to one of the layouts that's open today. It's Jim Diaz's Western Pacific layout. You can watch the layout tour, which is also on this channel. Just search for Jim Diaz. Diaz is D-I-A-S and not Z. You'll find it. It's a really good layout. The very first thing you see when you walk into Jim's layout is this amazing, I don't even know what you call this, replica of the Ketty Y. It's so well done. I don't know that I've ever seen a Ketty Y better than this one. It looks just like it. And Highway 70 is over there. See where that crane is? That steam shovel? Crane, it's a steam shovel. And so what you normally see, and I'll take the camera around to the other side and show it from that angle. So that's what you normally see from Highway 70. So James, you've been to the real Ketty Y. What do you think of this Ketty Y?
Honestly, this is just as impressive.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, every bit as impressive because you could see where you were standing, the hill you almost fall off of, and yeah. This is absolutely amazing.
So one of the really interesting things I think about Jim's layout is that it's double deck, but the top deck is completely separate from the lower deck. And when he does his op sessions, he has an operation for this logging railroad up top, as well as an op session for the regular railroad for the bottom, which is Western Pacific. So it's pretty cool.
Levitation.
Something you don't see every day. Here's something else you don't see every day. And it is prototypical. Check out this tree growing up through the building. That's actually modeled on an actual place in Blairsden. And on the layout tour, you can see a picture of it because he showed me a picture of the prototype that he modeled that off after.
Exactly.
Figuring out the virtual and the rosy deal right now.
You look at it, you think, okay, that's yeah. Minus the 10.
Right. But
I mean, I like operations, but it looks like. Yeah. I just wish you had wider aerospace into this guy. I try to cram in what you can.
Yeah, but if you wanted to play with that app thing, it's just an app called Luma.
Ground film is not
It's not the word.
It's MI or something like that. It's that.
So here's Jim. I haven't been back to his layout in 6 or 7 years, but it's every bit as remarkable as I remembered it. And here's the guy.
No, thank you, John.
Yeah.
You always speak well of it, and I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. He watches all the TSG stuff. Number one train crew member. Might have been the first one. Yeah, might have been the first one.
Yeah.
I moved my production stuff into the ballroom, I guess is what I'm going to call it, or the banquet room, because we're doing something different. I may have mentioned this earlier. I don't remember. But we're actually going to live stream the keynote speaker at the banquet. This is something that has never been done before for one of these events. So we're making history too, folks. Yeah, it's really exciting. And I'm really tired, but this will be fun. I've never live streamed an event this big. I've done recorded things like weddings in places like this, but never a live stream. So it's a little bit of a different challenge, I guess. But it's actually gone out to people all over the country and even up into Canada. So we're in, I think, 4 or 5 different time zones with this. And that's pretty exciting. So, shout out to the PCR Coast Division. I mean, I was on the convention committee. That's what this thing's for. But, if they hadn't been willing to do it, we would have left out about 90 people who wanted to be here. So, just saying, if you're not doing virtual events, you might be missing the boat and you're excluding people that really don't want to be excluded. Just something to think about. We'll be back later with another update. That's it for today. We had a great banquet here. Our friend Doug Debs from the Niles Canyon Railway was our keynote speaker. Gave a really great address. Doug has always been, for me, the guy that's always giving us food when we go up to Niles Canyon. And he's actually a very good speaker. And like I said, he has a whole bunch of knowledge about the history around here and in Niles Canyon. Gave a great talk. I learned something from that. And it was just a really great event overall. There's one more thing tomorrow. There's the convention breakfast. And I think we're going to that. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll be back with some more updates tomorrow, maybe some final thoughts about the convention, and I will catch you then. So signing off for now. All right, so this is the wrap-up I promised you. It was a good event. A lot of people showed up in person. I think we had something like 170 or 150, somewhere between 150 and 200 people showed up in person. And we had around 90 or 100, somewhere in that range, 80 to 100 people showing up online. So it was very well attended, both online and in person, which is good. I think it's a great thing that we were able to include that almost 100 people from really all over the country. And some people even attended from Canada. So the virtual event was especially, I think, successful. That's a pretty big event as far as these things go. And I'm glad that we were able to include them. So just other than that, it was a great chance to see friends and meet some new friends, like always. That's what these events really are for. And I'm really grateful to live in a place where we have a good, not only region for the NMRA, but a really great division. So with all that being said, that's it for now. I'm very tired, and I think I'll be resting for a day. I'll talk to you soon. I want to talk to you for a minute about the PCR convention. Something I found very promising is that we had the Duncan family from Lincoln, California attend our in-person event. It was both parents and two great kids who, it turns out, like to watch this channel. I only know that because they went out of their way to introduce themselves and tell me that they were great fans of the channel. So thanks to the Duncans for a very flattering moment. The inclusion of so many people on our virtual event added more than an extra 50% to the overall total of attendees, and they were from all over North America, including a whole bunch of people from our very own region who simply can't attend in person anymore. These people were not coming no matter what happened because of health, mobility, or financial limitations that they can't control. In the past, they had been consistent in-person attendees. And if we didn't have the sense to virtualize our convention, they would have been sitting home alone with nothing to do. They might have seen other people who were able to attend making social media posts about all the great times and might have even become depressed about it. But they were included because of our recognition of these factors and our commitment to make as much of the convention as we could available to them. Now, I've discussed the possibility of having hybrid events at both the national and local levels in the past, and planners will often say that they're afraid if they put something online that it'll hurt the in-person attendance. But I have to tell you, after running hybrid and virtual events for the past 3+ years, talking to attendees, polling hundreds of viewers, and understanding the difference between virtual and in-person, I've found this fear to be completely unfounded. I've even asked people who bring this so-called reason for not doing a hybrid convention up in planning meetings if they would miss the in-person event by going virtually just because it was cheaper. And they have said, and I mean every single one of them, said, no, of course not, because the in-person event is so much better. Could it be that they're really making this decision based on wanting to be exclusionary? Could it be that they're lazy and don't want to consider anything different from what they already know? Could it be that they simply don't care whether they're leaving people behind, even though they're the same attendees who have made the event successful in the past? I don't know the answer, but I'm here to tell you that if we want to help grow the hobby and grow our events, we won't be able to do that by leaving people out. I think we should take the approach that says we can do this and should, because it's the right thing to do for the hobby and for the people who may decide to come in person next time because the virtual event sparked that interest in them. Anyway, it's just something to think about. May looks like it won't be as busy as the past couple months, but that always seems to change, especially when the weather's good. I have a couple layout tour shoots planned, as well as the Talking Trains show that's coming up on the 15th. That show will feature Molly Engelman from the Overfair Pacific. Remember, they have the equipment from what used to be called the Swanton Pacific? She'll have some great information about the history of that equipment and a lot more. That's definitely one you won't want to miss, especially if you like grand scale steam with a lot of history behind it. That same week, on Saturday, May 18th, I'm planning to have Joe Piazza on an episode of TSG Live Model Railroading to talk about his amazing 3D printed trucks that we touched on in the West Side Reunion segment of this podcast. I'm really looking forward to this because Joe seems to have really perfected the process of making super detailed 3D printed models, and he's going to share plenty of experiences for the viewers to learn from. The annual Rail Fair event at Ardenwood Historic Farm happens over Memorial Day weekend starting this year. It used to be over Labor Day weekend, but the weather tends to be so hot that time of year that they wanted to move it. Also, over Memorial Day weekend, the Best of the West show, which is happening at the Santa Margarita Ranch on the central coast of California. There's a lot going on everywhere and plenty of great events in your area now that the weather is getting better. So get out there and have some fun. So if you enjoy the content on this channel, become a member of the TSG Train Crew. That's what I call our supporters on Patreon. Everything we produced here costs money to do so, and it would help a lot if only a small percentage of our regular watchers would contribute even $2 a month. And it's not without some perks and benefits. Patrons get early access to the feature content in 4K and without ads. They also get deals on the models we show off on the product spotlights. And behind-the-scenes access to TSG out in the field. You can do this by going to patreon.com/TSG Multimedia. If you don't like the idea of a recurring monthly amount, you can use PayPal by going to paypal.com/paypalme/TSG Multimedia for a one-time gift. If you don't want to do that, you can buy some TSG branded stuff from the TSG Swag Store by clicking on the TSG Store link provided in the description below. If you don't like that idea, share the content you watch on social media. That's completely free and it helps a lot. Check the description for all of these options. We have a lot of fun together and I'd love to have you on the crew too. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.